Hey, what's good, y'all? You might recognize this face. This is Stefania Ferrario, who's also one of Tash Peterson's little sidekicks. She can be seen in a handful of Tash Peterson's protests, doing the exact same thing, hooting and hollering about the animal holocaust, etc., etc. She was even an accomplice to Tash Peterson stealing a lamb stunt. She actually has a formidable following on YouTube of over 300,000 subscribers. So honestly, she might be a little bit more than a sidekick. She recently posted a video claiming that the vegans aren't the ones that are in a cult like a lot of us have been saying. She is arguing that it's quite the opposite. It's us, non-vegans, that have been brainwashed into thinking that what we do on a daily basis is normal and acceptable, and therefore we're the real culty ones. Which, I know, that was a little knee-jerk moment for a lot of you. Are you serious? Right. It's just as ridiculous as it sounds, but we're here to discuss this and talk about it. So let's get into it.
Imagine for a second a cult, but not just any cult, the worst kind of cult. One that's all around you, normalized, woven into the very fabric of society. A cult where violence and exploitation are not only accepted, but celebrated. This cult has a name. It's called Carnism. Carnism is the belief system that justifies eating animals. It's a violent ideology that convinces people that some lives are less valuable, that we have the right to kill and exploit sentient beings. And like all cults, it hides its true nature behind layers of tradition, culture, and denial. It's the worst kind of cult because it's hidden in plain sight, deeply woven into our traditions. Think about it. We have entire holidays centered around the ritual slaughter of animals. Thanksgiving, Eid, Christmas. These, just a few of the traditions, revolve around feasting on a specific corpse. We gather around a table and carve into the flesh of an innocent being, and we call it a celebration.
By definition, Stefania, the norm can't be a cult because the cult has to incite unusual or extreme beliefs. Unfortunately for you in this scenario, eating meat, or carnism as you like to call it, is normal, especially since it is consistent with our biology, and as omnivores, our species has always eaten meat, so this is the norm, this is expected, so therefore can't be a cult. The vast majority, which is about 99% of people in the world partaking in this activity, consuming animal products of any kind, makes it impossible to be a cult, but you keep trying. Now, I know some people, especially vegans, love to argue this point of, just because it's normal doesn't make it good, slavery was normal, blah, blah, blah. Now, it goes without saying, it's quite obvious that just because something is normal also doesn't mean it's good. That is true. However, I do want to comment on the slavery thing. I feel like a lot of people don't know this, but it was an extremely small minority of people that owned slaves. So therefore, slavery wasn't the norm. It was, in fact, the exception. So I just want to throw that out there because that's a point that a lot of vegans, for some reason, like to argue when I say that, this was the norm. But anyway, let's continue with the video.
This is Carnism at its core. Every year, millions of turkeys are slaughtered for Thanksgiving. And they're not just any turkeys. They are docile, gentle animals, bred to be submissive, killed simply because it's a tradition. During Eid, we call it a sacrifice, as though offering up the life of an innocent lamb or goat makes the ritual sacred. But what are we sacrificing? Really? It's not like our own lives. It's not like it's our own blood. It's the life of a being that has done nothing but exist peacefully. And these animals, they're docile, innocent, they trust us. Cows, sheep, pigs, chickens, these creatures aren't violent. They're not predators. They live their lives peacefully, yet we subject them to unspeakable violence. But it's not just the slaughter that defines this cult. It's how we control them from the moment they're born to the moment they die.
You know, saying that they're peaceful and that they're not predators kind of implies that being a predator is inherently a bad thing when it's not, obviously. Predators are actually extremely necessary for the populations of herbivores to even thrive and exist in any meaningful capacity. They are responsible for the upkeep of a major part of every ecosystem. So painting the herbivores as good and the predators as bad is really, really void of any sort of understanding of nature and environmental science, which doesn't surprise me. That seems to be a common thing in the vegan activist space, where they just completely reject every aspect of nature that means anything as if it doesn't align with their current beliefs, because honestly, they push the goalposts all over the place. So one day they believe this and the other day they believe that. Also, if you really believe that cows, turkeys, pigs, chickens, etc. don't eat other animals, you are mistaken. You're as delusional as the rest of the vegan activist community, because they absolutely do eat other animals, including bugs and other small creatures like mice, rodents, etc. Even snakes. So as much as you want to believe in this crazy Disney fairy tale land where herbivores don't eat other animals, unfortunately for you, it's not reality. It's some ridiculous fan fiction that you and the rest of the vegan cult made up to make yourselves feel good about protecting these animals, when they're just as prone to eating other creatures as other omnivorous or even some carnivorous animals. Anyway, humans are no different. We're also predators. We also play a massive role in the upkeep of environments, of ecosystems. Obviously, we do a lot of harm, but we also try to mitigate harm by other necessary practices. And unfortunately, again, for you and the vegans, consuming meat and using animal products is a necessity for humanity to thrive, as we always have. Despite, popular belief within the community of vegans that humans don't eat animal products. Obviously, that's a load of hot garbage. Anyway, regarding this sacrifice thing, Thanksgiving isn't just a day to sacrifice a turkey or something like that. Some people don't even eat turkey on Thanksgiving. It is a holiday to feast, right? That is a big part of it. It's supposed to be in celebration of the unity between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans, which obviously, it wasn't as beautiful as we like to pretend it was. But that's mostly the core of it. Obviously, turkey was a big part of that celebration and always has been. So I get where she's coming from, but it's not the centerpiece of it. It's not a holiday just for the sacrifice of a turkey. That's crazy work. It just so happens that turkey was a good food choice for this holiday. And I don't even know what she means when she's talking about these other holidays like Christmas. There's no specific animal that goes along with Christmas, so I don't know where she came up with that bullshit. Anyway, moving on.
They are born into this cult, Carnism, and they never have a chance to escape. We control their bodies, their reproduction, their lives. In the dairy industry, female cows are forced to give birth only to then have their babies ripped away from them. They cry for days, mourning the loss of their calf, who is usually taken away to be slaughtered for veal. And this process? Well, it's repeated over and over again until their bodies give out. And then they're slaughtered when they can no longer produce enough milk. This is the worst kind of cult because it's built on absolute domination. We force these animals into existence, we control their every movement, and we take everything from them. Their milk, their eggs, their babies, their lives. We genetically alter them to suit our needs, turning them into nothing more than products.
Wow, you nailed it, Stefania. Actually, she nailed it. She actually pointed out something that most of the vegan community never acknowledges. It's the fact that these animals have been engineered to provide food for us over thousands of years. And that's not something anybody that's living today has done. We've domesticated these animals over these thousands of years, and this is what they are. This is what they, do, obviously. A dairy cow produces so much milk that if they aren't milked by a human being and that milk is then kept, like, they actually can die from infections. It's extremely painful for them to not be milked. In fact, in many farms, the cows actually line up to be milked because it is a relief for them. It is something they actually are basically programmed to do. And so when she complains that, oh, the babies are taken away from the mother cows or whatever, the milk isn't like still, they are fed milk still, or formula, just depending on, whatever it is that the farm wants to provide them with. But there's so much excess milk that it's clearly fed to the calves in most scenarios. And this comment about the cows crying for their babies, dairy cows don't typically do that. In fact, they are so neglectful towards their offspring that they are terrible mothers in most cases. In most farms, they will like lay on their own calves if they're not looked after. If the calves aren't taken away, half the time the cows will kill their calves on accident. It is actually a kindness from the farmers to remove the calf from those situations. Now, the other animals being genetically modified, to grow bigger muscles and things like that for consumption, again, that's been happening from selective breeding for a very, very, very long time. Even the animals that aren't fed like hormones and things like that, like the organic stuff, they're still modified in a way that they wouldn't really survive on their own if released. Not on good chances, at least. Like if they were released in a non-human related ecosystem, like just out in the wild somewhere in the absolute wilderness, most of these farm animals would not survive. So it's either you, A, want these animals to just be completely removed from existence, have humans completely stop breeding them, stop producing them, and then boom, they're gone, which again, I don't really know how that helps them to eradicate their species. Or B, you want them to be released out into the wild so they can suffer the most gruesome deaths until they go extinct as well. There really is no winning for the vegans here. To stop animal agriculture altogether means more suffering for these animals in different ways. They might see it as a win to have their species go extinct, but I don't really understand that. You would think reducing harm to animals wouldn't be to eradicate them from existence, but what do I know? I'm not vegan. Anyway, that's pretty much what Stefania is arguing here, and how we are the culty ones because we sacrifice animals, we eat their flesh, all this stuff. Now, I get how that can sound a little culty if it wasn't the norm, if this wasn't life. It's the fact that they struggle with understanding reality versus fairy tale. Reality is we need to eat, and in order to eat, you have to consume things that are living. That includes animal products for most people. And just how most animals, the vast majority, will also consume other animals. This is life. This is the planet that we live on. This is Earth. This isn't some fairy tale dreamland where all animals can just live in harmony and in peace, and everything is just an herbivore and we all just eat plants. That's not the world we live in. These lunatics need to come back down to Earth and understand that reality is reality, and you either live in it and accept it for what it is, or you just end up being miserable and trying to fight it your entire life, which is what the vast majority of these types of vegans do. There is no obvious solution to the problems that they bring forth, and the things that really are problems, like the conditions of factory farms, aren't even really what they're trying to fight against. They're just trying to fight against us using or eating, consuming animals in any capacity, which is unbelievably unrealistic and honestly childish to believe that these efforts are meaningful or progressive in any way, shape, or form when the goal is so unbelievably unrealistic.